Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm finding out how many nooks I need to defeat fairy Stockfish. The nook moves like a rook and a knight. Let's get started with game number 1. Okay, game number 1, as you can see, I have a singular nook on the board, and its movement pattern is not that dissimilar to that of a queen, right? A queen is a bishop plus a rook, and if a nook is a knight plus a rook, it's probably worth maybe slightly less than a single queen. Now, the problem is black here is starting off with 39 points of material, so I'm starting off with, 8.5? Let me know down below what you think a nook is worth, but I'm gonna say like 8.5, 8.7, something like that. It can't be worth that much less than a queen. So 8 points versus 39, we'll see how this pans out. Already we see fairy Stockfish bringing out the queen, which serves two purposes. If I trade off the nook, then it is my lonesome king versus the entire army, which is a very unlikely win. And if I move the nook away, then the queen can freely attack my king, which is also a very unlikely win. So it doesn't really matter what I do here, I'll try and survive for as long as I can. Oh, beautiful idea. I've just captured this quote-unquote free bishop. But it's very clear that the idea there was queen to c3, and since the nook doesn't defend diagonals like a queen would, that nook is toast. And in turn, so is probably my king. And with that, we do lose game number 1. Let's go to move on to 2 nooks. All right, we now have 2 nooks on the board, and this is a position that I have much better chances in, but still pretty slim chances. Reason being that for most of these variants where I add pieces to a position where I basically have nothing else to work with, one of two things has to happen. A, I totally crack down on Stockfish immediately from the very beginning with some crazy sacrifice or attack, and then end up winning the game. Or 2, I fail to do so, and then Stockfish solidifies and finds counterplay. So I have to find a way to brutally attack Stockfish ASAP. Let's start by advancing this nook to d5, centralizing it. We are met with pawn to e6. Now, the idea was that I can slide the nook over to e5, and now these two are coordinating on f7. If I can take here and take on f8, that's almost checkmate. Of course, Stockfish has no interest in allowing any of that to happen, so comes out swinging with a check. I can't even defend really with the nook here because then I just pin it since it doesn't actually see the queen in return. So I should probably, oh wait, if I move my king out of the way, then there's check, and then I definitely lose this nook. Okay, maybe I do have to block. Oh, but it's just gonna sacrifice the queen, and then I'm back to square one. I'm back to the previous game, basically, but I have an extra nook. So more than likely, it will just try and advance these pawns. I'm going to try and get close to the king, but it will probably just, tighten up the position and then promote a pawn. But I'll do my best. Are you actually kidding me? Oh my goodness. Okay, so I've been trying my best to find whatever counterplay I can muster up, including on c7 and on the queen side, broadly speaking, and I've recently switched over to the king side and I grabbed g7. But I think my nook is trapped, which is crazy because it has the mobility of a rook and a knight. But there's nowhere on this file that I can safely move to, which is really crazy to think about, but it's all covered. Nowhere on the rank, obviously, and all of these movements like a knight are also covered. So now I'm very much toast. And with that, we do lose with 2 nooks. Let's go to move on to 3 nooks. All right, we now have 3 nooks on the board, and this is way more promising. In total, it's only about, say, 22 to 24 points of material, but I'm immediately looking at the weakest squares, which are c7, only defended by the queen, and f7, only defended by the king. So I'd imagine my first move won't be either of these. It should probably be the center nook, maybe like d5 targeting c7, and try to get Stockfish on the back foot basically as fast as possible. We are met with pawn to c6, which makes a lot of sense, cutting off the ability of this nook to c7. So maybe I slide over this way and target e5 instead, or rather target f7 instead from e5. Okay, pawn to f6, I'm not totally mad about. Normally this is a very weak move because it weakens the diagonals, but I don't have a single piece on this board that can look down a diagonal. The king is about as close as I get, and that's not going to cause too much damage. So pawn to f6, how to respond? The thing is, I desperately need a way into the position, but it can create as many diagonal weaknesses as it pleases, and I will never be able to capitalize on it. So I think eventually I'm going to have to just sacrifice and somehow get into its position extremely fast. Okay, for now, let's retreat. Pawn to d5, yeah, it can create these very long sort of diagonal pawns. It could even push e5 next and just have an absolutely beautiful position in pawn structure. And since my nooks don't move on diagonals, I'll probably struggle to face off against that. Okay, we get knight to h6, which does allow this sacrifice. Bishop takes, nook takes, king shuffles over, but I don't have enough reinforcement, so I'm going to bring this nook up so it can slide over and maybe come into that attack as well. But yeah, I've just allowed it to get too many pieces developed. You can see these pawns are now out of the way, so everybody can have some of this king, and I have no way to defend this nook now. I could put it in between, but it would just get captured, so we kind of have to resign ourselves to our fate here. With that, we do lose with 3 nooks. Let's go to move on to 4 nooks. Okay, 4 nooks now on the board. I'm really hoping we're approaching a point where I can actually make something happen. We do have this attack on f7 and g7, which I think is very critical because now I can move this nook to d5. And I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm just brute force calculating. That's because that's exactly what I'm doing, is I don't have really any conceptualization of how these pieces coordinate, other than the fact that I'm sure they're good on files and ranks because they move like rooks, and they should try and coordinate like knights because they also can move like knights. But I'm not as familiar with this piece as I am, say, the dragons, so it's going to be a little bit tricky. Maybe I should do a series where I reinvigorate the dragons, but instead of playing other players with dragons, I play them with nooks. I actually feel like that would be a lot of fun. Anyways, let's see about nook to d5, because I immediately target c7, and I think that's good too, right? Every move I make, try and create an immediate threat, because otherwise, Stockfish develops, and then I'm toast. So, nook to d5, target c7. Stockfish will defend that however it pleases, either moving the pawn forward, developing the knight, what have you, and then ultimately I think my goal is to slide over to g5, threatening both a sacrifice on g7, which I think is pretty concrete, and threatening to take on f7. So let's start off with nook to d5. Right, we get pawn to c6. Now I slide over to f5, g5, f5, both kind of achieve the same thing because we have eyes on f7 and g7, and this nook from either of those squares looks both at g7 and f7. Knight to h6. Wait, is this really good or am I crazy? Let's see, I could take, bishop takes, nook takes, king takes. If only I could get this nook over to g2 one turn after, that would be amazing. I can't, but I know the only way I win this is by sacrificing, so let's go headfirst in on this attack. No, go away, leave me alone. Oh, I was so close. If I could have just slid this over, I think I would have had really good attacking chances against the king here. But we do get checked. If I move over this way, there's bishop g4. I'm sure it doesn't care at all about sacrificing a bishop for a nook, sacrificing quote unquote, winning basically some species of exchange there. And if I move up to f2, then I'm just blocking my own attack. I'm toast again, aren't I? We'll try our best here. Wow, bishop to g4, because obviously if I move the king away, I lose the nook immediately, but if I take, then there's just knight to f6 with this really nice fork. So try as I might, I tried to hold on to all of those different nooks, and now it's taken even my last one. All right, with that, we do lose with 4 nooks. Let's go to move on to 5 nooks. Okay, I now have an army of 5 nooks, which I don't know exactly how many points that's worth, but it has to be upwards of 30, right? 32, 34, something way, way up there. And I'd also imagine that this is the point where Fairy Stockfish, if it were playing with the nooks, would have a very fun time destroying the black pieces, but again, I'm still not exactly sure what the strategy is here. Maybe I start off with something similar, but not exactly the same, like nook to b5, targeting c7. It will block however it pleases, and then I slide this nook over, and then, I don't know, maybe I like stack nooks. I really don't know what the strategy is here. Let's keep trying to attack these critical squares and hope that something comes of it. Maybe eventually I just sacrifice on f7 right away. Right, knight to a6, like, what's the worst that could happen if I take? King takes back. I mean, otherwise I win the queen right away, so the king has to take back, basically. And then what? What do I actually follow up with there? Check? Knight would probably block. Check this way, king has to go back. Yeah, but there's just no checkmate there, is there? That's crazy, but maybe I reinforce this. Let's try this again. Let's go for c7 once more. Okay, we've now motivated it to play c6, which I don't really know if that does anything for us, but I feel good that I forced it to make a move. Let's slide this rook over. Knight to h6, so it doesn't play the same f6 line as it did before. Or rather, as it did in the earlier games. I think it did play knight to h6, though. Let's slide... Actually, let's sacrifice. I really do believe that sacrificing is the only way to win this. I also like the concept of now being able to slide this guy over after the exchange. Bishop takes, we'll go ahead and recapture with check. King slides over, only move. And now how do I reinforce this? Maybe you over here? There's no follow-up after that, but maybe I can play him there and target f7. So let's give that a try. Queen comes out to play with check. We'll block that with one of our nooks. Oh, and we get oh, it's a queen sacrifice, but of course, because now the king takes on g7. Right. Very nice find by Stockfish, but not completely unexpected performance for a 3500 ELO engine. King slides back, and I'll play this out, but this is looking tough. Oh, that's kind of funny. It's tried to promote to a nook, I guess because it gives check with tempo, so it thinks that's some species of advantage, but I don't actually have a file sort of for the black pieces to get a nook, so now I'm just getting checked by a placeholder. This is the most horrible checkmate of my life. Oh my goodness, I get triple ladders mated by a placeholder piece. That's crazy. Okay, with that, we lose against 5 nooks. Let's go to move on to 6 nooks. Okay, we now have a very wide and strong army of 6 nooks. I gotta get this. I have to win with 6 nooks. This is so overwhelmingly and obviously overpowered that if I can't win with this, I would be blown away. Come on, Tony, pull yourself together, man. Okay. I think we start off with a very similar idea. I'm not trying to bash my head into the same wall here, but I think if we start off with a similar idea, get a similar defense, and then slide over, it should be very difficult for Stockfish to defend because knight h6, for instance, I just sacrifice, and I think anything else is probably too weakening. So, nook to d5, let's get this rocking and rolling. Knight to a6 right away. Let's go ahead and double down on this concept. Also, I think it's important to develop these nooks early so that they have horizontal movement on the board and don't just get like stuck by the king on the back rank or stuck by other nooks. Right. Oh, I was going to say right, pawn to c6. We get pawn to c5. I'd imagine it's already trying to play a very active sort of defense by getting queen to a5 possible on the board. So it's probably anticipating a species of forced checkmate already. Let's go nook to g3, threatening takes, nook takes, king over, and then checkmate on f7. Pawn comes up to g6. I like what I'm seeing. Now, oh, what if I just take? Is that totally insane? Check here. Yeah, the problem is the king scuttles back to e8. So, nook to f3. Let's just keep throwing nooks in its face until something happens. Pawn to d6. Looks to me like I can take on f7. I'm threatening the queen as well. Threatening f8. This might already be completely winning. Bishop to f5. Oh, the audacity of this guy. Free rook, free queen, lots of free stuff. Why can't I just take you? Because I think I'm more intrigued by the free material than I am by getting rid of the queen. So I'm going to take this free rook, I think. Queen to d7. I don't know where you think you're going, but I'm taking this free knight to follow. Long castles! I should have disabled castling. Classic mistake. Well, what do I do against that? You'd imagine I want this nook out of here, but how do I do that is the question. Because I don't really have any escape squares. I can't escape like a knight, and I definitely can't escape like a rook. What if I just move you back here? Bishop g7. Maybe I sack for the rook? I think that's kind of reasonable. Let's go here. Bishop g7 was kind of expected. We'll take on d8. Nice, and it does recapture, but I was almost going to lose that nook regardless, so getting it for a rook I think is reasonable. We now have 5 nooks left on the board, and way less pieces for Stockfish. So I think I'm still in a good spot here. Maybe I can like takes back, take on g7, I get 2 bishops, and I think if I can eliminate most of its pieces, I can probably win this. Yeah, pawn takes back, I take on g7, I'm feeling pretty good about this. Queen comes... What? Okay, hold on. Wait, what checkmate did it see that it thinks it needs to give up the queen? Queen to d7, where's my... Hold on. I to really feel like I won this and I didn't just like psych out Stockfish by forcing it to find its own checkmate, its own demise, without me even being able to calculate it. What was the threat that it was so afraid of here? I don't understand. Check, and then what? Like takes, then I'm threatening e7? I don't know why it thinks it needed to give up the queen, but that queen is all mine, 100%. Knight goes back and you are toast. I'm going to devour all of its pieces and eventually it just has to be checkmate. Give me that and give me that and you're mine. And I'm not going to sack that. Let me take this. And as long as I don't stalemate it, this is a complete and easy, super easy victory. Okay, now it's just being annoying. Let's play here. Take with check, check, cut you off. And then my absolute favorite type of checkmate invented, you already know when, in 3000 BCE by Ooga Booga Ladder, we do have Nook to A1, which is Ladder's mate. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Let me know down below what other challenges I should do with these Nooks. I kind of want to challenge other YouTubers to find out how many Nooks it takes to beat them. So let me know if you want to see that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.